and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this Saturday morning. Wow, it is cold outside back in Fife, that's certainly. And the snow this morning in parts of Scotland. So this video will hopefully cheer you up with some Celtic joy this morning. Celtic and Chris Sutton. Chris Sutton is a man like after myself. He's followed Celtics ever since he played with Celtic 20 odd years ago. And let's face it, 20 years ago, Celtic could get a win in the Champions League. Chris Sutton has been talking about it. Chris Sutton has been said, he's been a bit blunt about his old club, but he's upbeat and positive about the future of Celtic. He said Celtic look weak and timid in the Champions League, worryingly for them. I'm beginning to wonder if there are others that others aren't scared of them anymore. You remember the fact that Celtic are losing that fear factor. Brendan Rodgers might be able to fix that, but he's one of those managers that definitely needs to find a way quick that resonates with the fans, because the club are walking a tightrope, said Chris Sutton. A tightrope. They can't afford to stumble. Let's deal with Europe first. Given the fallout from the Champions League exit, said Chris Sutton, we've heard all the predictable statements following similar predictable outcome in Rome. Celtic's defeat in Lazio was just another of a long line of setbacks which have come to my old club on the continent. Rodgers spoke afterwards about the need to add quality to the ranks, said Chris Sutton. He says to compete at that level. And that is obvious. The trouble is, how much do you need? Quite frankly, clubs have spent tens of millions trying to make an impact in the Champions League and they've failed. Now, there's lots of clubs around Europe that have spent a lot of money. I mean, you just look at Newcastle United, for one. And there's lots of clubs that have spent lots of money. So let's take a step back, Chris Sutton said. And when you look at it, you look at the performances at Copenhagen, Feyenoord, Shakhtar Donetsk, and look how they're feeling this season. They're doing not too bad, and they've all beaten Celtic at some point. All of those victories against Celtic are hard to take. But then when you look at Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Manchester City, they're out of reach when it comes to the financial prospects that Celtic have. But the manager has spoken to our owner. The manager has spoken to our owner. And you've seen the pictures of all players, or some of the players being picked to go and meet the Pope, and then Peter Lawwell meeting the Pope. Desmond sitting in the background. It's funny how they didn't get a picture of Desmond meeting the Pope. Anyway, Brendan Rodgers has opened up about his talks with Dermot Desmond regarding the club's future. After he had a meeting with him in Rome, obviously they had a conversation. Celtic's dominance in Scotland is one thing that they want to keep continuing. And people are now saying, look, yes, we have had dominance in Scotland for 20 odd years now. It's 2023. We're going into 2024 and we're still top of the league, still looking down on the Rangers. So come on, people. It's Saturday. It is Saturday, so let's get it up them. Anyway, the defeat in Rome was witnessed by Desmond and his son. And it brought these concerns to the fore that we just aren't doing it. European campaigns have been treated more as financial opportunities by Peter Lawwell and co., which is disappointing as far as Celtic fans are concerned. But the events following the match were pretty symbolic, or could even be historic. The fact that Desmond was there. When was the last time that Desmond was at a game in Europe, an away day? So I think the importance of the meeting after it, and obviously they all went off to meet the Pope, and Rodgers and Desmond had a nice conversation about the future trajectory, about the future way that the club is going to go. Rodgers acknowledged the presence of Desmond, and he said, the club are clear on what and where we want to get to in terms of the level. But Dermot is keen for us to progress. Our owner wants us to progress. Show us the cash. Show us the cash, big man. Get it in there. Show us the cash. Not just domestically, but more important in Europe. He wants us to progress. And I think he was really hurt. When you think back to the last summer, I think he was really hurt the fact that he brought in Ange, you give Ange the chance, and he gave him everything he wanted. He gave him that 30 million the first season, and he gave him what on paper was the biggest deal that any Celtic manager was going to be given, and he was going to be given a transfer budget to match his hopeful ambitions for the club. But he turned that down, and Dermot went calling to his old mate. He picked up the phone to his old mate, who was sitting in Spain at the time, and says, look, I want you back. I want you back. I want you back for good. I never sung that down the phone. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, take that and move on. Brendan Rodgers then said afterwards, a glimmer of hope. The shared vision between the coach and the majority shareholder is a catalyst and the need for Celtic to elevate their game on the European stage. Celtic fans will obviously sit back and think and read and listen to this and say, wow, yeah, we've heard all this before. We want to move forward, but we keep buying project players. We keep buying project players. So how are we going to get around it? Brendan Rodgers can lay the groundwork. He can start that groundwork in January. Obviously, there won't be a massive amount of players coming. We signed too many prospect players, but it could be the fact that we could bring in a goalkeeper. I think it'll be it's going to be the best time to bring in a goalkeeper and get him bedded in before Joe Hart leaves Celtic next summer. Finally. But I mean, Joe Hart has done well, but I'm still going to go back to that one where he tries to save the ball, where he's 3 feet over the line and he palms it into the roof of the net rather than over the crossbar. Must be one of your highlights in your career, Joe. Anyway, we move on for that. The winter window is it a time that we're going to get some decent players in? The manager has said he wants to try and get 3 or 4 players in of quality. Sources around the club are now saying that, look, Celtic never rush into deals in January unless they get the right man available. Will Celtic get the type of player that they're looking for in January? I don't know about that, but there will be players leaving the club. And one player that's been mouthing off in the press has been Mikey Johnston. Now, Mikey Johnston, he's been telling everyone and anyone that will listen to him that he still has something to offer at Celtic. We've all got something to offer at Celtic, and it's usually a voice. So Mikey, join us in the stand because your time's up. It's like a boating leak, and he's out there. And Brendan Rodgers is at the side and going, "Oh, Johnson, time's up. In, get off the boat now. Move it." Anyway, we move on for that. Mikey Johnson received a blunt message from the one and only Brendan Rodgers, and he said, "Do your talking on the pitch, Mikey. Do your talking on the pitch." The Republic of Ireland winger has gone on record to say that he believes that he can make a difference to Celtic. Johnson did spend the last season on loan in Portugal. We all remember that. And, 24-year-old, he's been at Celtic a long time, and he's never reached the dizzy heights of what we thought he might do. And Brendan Rodgers has basically just told him, look, Mikey, you need to do your talking on the pitch. Never mind talking about the fact that he can't get a game in front of the aging James Forrest, the man that's been there and done us all in Celtic colours, and had an illustrious career. And Mikey Johnson still can't get past him on the pitch. Never mind speed-wise, the fact that James Forrest is still faster than Mikey Johnston. Come on, Mikey, up your game. Rodgers speaking to the press yesterday, that's what you want to hear. Said the noises that come from players. If you want to hear those noises, you hear them. But they get their chance in training every day, says Brendan. And Brendan then turned around the press and said, do your talking on the pitch. That is where you're judged. Not in the media, not on social media. I judge you on the pitch. Long-term Crocs, Leila Bada, Rio Hatati, and Dyson Maiden will be missing for the run in December. Leila Bada will be back in December, so it'll be interesting to see if he gets right back into the team, if he's going to be fit enough. Obviously, we've got Lewis Palmer. He'll be here this weekend. Marco Tillo, the interesting one. Will Marco get a game from the start tomorrow? That's going to be interesting. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. Tell me what the temperature is where you are watching the video today. It is sunny here. It's not as warm as it has been in the mornings. I hope that it's not too cold for you. Wrap up, sit in, watch some YouTube, and I'll see you tomorrow. On that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans all around the world.